Welcome everyone today. We are here for the Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation American Rescue Plan Act webinar. We are very excited today to talk more with you about the specific travel and tourism outdoor recreation program that we are able to bring to you through the American Rescue Plan Act. We will be diving more into the notice of funding opportunity for this program in more depth and giving you more information as well as taking some Q&A today. But before we get started, we are very fortunate today to be joined by the Department of Commerce's Deputy Secretary, Don Graves. He has been with us for several months now and has been so excited about the work that we're doing here at the Economic Development Administration and did want to take some time to spend some time saying some words to all of you as we get ready for this exciting webinar today. So with that, I will introduce our Deputy Secretary, Don Graves.
Well, thanks so much, Michelle, and it is really great to be with you. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and for your interest in the Economic Development Administration's programs. As you all likely know, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act into law, which has allocated EDA with an historic $3 billion in supplemental funding, making this the largest economic development initiative from the U.S. Department of Commerce in nearly 50 years. As you also know, the purpose of these $3 billion that we've received from the American Rescue Plan is to assist communities in their efforts to build back better from the economic impacts of the coronavirus pandemic. President Biden and Secretary Raimondo are committed to building local economies that will be resilient to future economic shocks. The three goals of EDA's ARP funding are: one, bringing back the American workforce in industries that have been hardest hit, such as travel and tourism and manufacturing, through programs that support economic growth and diversification, creating talent pipelines to address industry needs, fostering higher skill, higher wage job opportunities. Two, capitalizing on American ingenuity to build regions of the future by focusing on innovation-led economic development, including planning, infrastructure, workforce development, and business financing. Third, pursuing a comprehensive approach to advancing equity by focusing on populations in underserved communities that have been denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of economic prosperity. During the pandemic, those that did well did quite well. But too many of our communities and our industries struggled, including the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation industry, and the communities who depend on them. Today, we're here to talk about our $70 million travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation notice of funding opportunity. This program was purposefully designed with state grants, quickly disperse funds to help accelerate the recovery of this vital American industry and the communities who depend on it. It was also designed with a competitive grant opportunity so that the communities that were hit hardest have the opportunity to access the funds they need. In a minute, I'm going to turn this over to the experts at EDA. But first, I want to thank you for taking the time to learn about our travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation program. I also encourage all of you to explore our other American Rescue Plan programs, as they may be able to help you drive community-led economic development and build back better. With your support, I know these programs will help create transformational change in communities across the country. So with that, I will turn it back to Michelle. I want to thank you all and wish you well, and please stay safe.
Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary. We know you're super busy, and so we really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk with us. Great. With that, we will get going on our webinar on the Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation Program. Hopefully you all are able to see our slides here. A few notes up front before we get started. This presentation and slides will be posted to EDA's ARPA website soon, so please check back regularly and you will find those slides there. The website is at the bottom of this slide, www.eda.gov/ARPA. That's American Rescue Plan Act. We also will be posting frequently asked questions on that site soon as well. And please do enter any questions that you have today in the Q&A box in the right-hand side of your menu. Please use the Q&A box, not the chat box. We will use that for any questions that you have today, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. And with that, we'll get going. Before we get started, we did want to take a moment to talk about the Economic Development Administration. For those who aren't as familiar, EDA's mission is to lead the federal economic development agenda by promoting innovation and competitiveness, preparing America's regions for growth and success in the worldwide economy. We do this to increase America's global economic competitiveness, support community-led economic development, and to help communities develop resilient and agile local. As you have probably heard for those who have joined us for previous webinars, we are very excited about this historic $3 billion investment that we are making in America's communities. We received these $3 billion through the American Rescue Plan Act, and it is a historic investment that will allow us to support bottom-up economic development while also focusing on advancing equity, creating good-paying jobs, helping workers develop in-demand skills to get placed into quality jobs, and also to build economic resilience and accelerate the economic recovery for industries and communities that were hardest hit by the pandemic. These investments made under American Rescue Plan will also support the Biden administration's commitment to build America's economy back better and stronger. These $3 billion are going to be invested in three major categories. The first are jobs for today. The second is communities built for all and regions for the future. For those of you who may have joined us on a previous webinar, you may be familiar that with the $3 billion, we have 6 notices of funding opportunities that accompany them. There are 6 of them listed here: Good Jobs Challenge, the Travel, Tourism, Outdoor Recreation Program, Economic Adjustment Assistance, Indigenous Communities, the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, and the Statewide Planning, Research, and Networks Program. Those are the 6 NOFOs that you will find that come accompanying the $3 billion. On top of that, we are making a $300 million coal communities commitment. That is $3 million that will be taken out of both the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program and the Build Back Better Regional. The $300 million out of the $3 billion will go towards coal communities. Today's focus is on the Travel and Tourism Outdoor Recreation Program. If you do want to learn about any of the other programs, like I mentioned, please do visit our website, www.eda.gov/ARPA, and there are links to each program's sites. So for the Travel and Tourism Program, for those that are familiar with the American Rescue Plan Act, it actually mandated that $750 million, or 25% of the $3 billion, went towards the travel and tourism and outdoor recreation sectors that we know were hard hit by the pandemic. The goal is really to assist communities in these communities that have these industries that have suffered economic injury because of job losses in these sectors. How EDA is going to be giving out these funds are in 2 major categories. There's going to be $510 million that will go towards state tourism grants. These are direct allocations to states and territories funded at 100% federal share. The remaining $240 million will go in an EDA competitive tourism grant program. And these competitive grants will go to fund regions most adversely affected by damage to the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation sectors from the pandemic. We expect to fund at least 80% of project costs and may increase the federal share potentially up to 100%. And with that, I am going to turn this over to my colleague, Craig Brustati, who is our Deputy Assistant Secretary for Regional Affairs, and he's going to walk through some more details of each program.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. I'm going to dive into the first part of this, or maybe the larger part, the $510 million for state tourism grants. Now, the first thing I want to clarify is that these awards aren't for state tourism exclusively, but rather we are making non-competitive awards to the states be used where they see fit to meet the needs of their respective travel and tourism economies. States have discretion to competitively sub-award these funds across an array of activities. The good news is all states by now should have received or are very shortly about to receive an invitation to apply or to receive non-competitive awards through this part of the program. Again, $510 total million available for this. Governors and their offices should be receiving, if they haven't received these invitations, very, very shortly, any day now. Governors have the opportunity to assign or designate an appropriate lead entity to manage these awards. I know many states have very experienced and innovative travel and tourism offices or agencies, for example, or perhaps it might be better managed by an economic development state agency. But governors do have discretion to designate management of these awards to the best suited organization, as long as that organization is an eligible entity. So it must be a nonprofit, local or state government. We do not allow or award, for that matter, any of our grants to for-profit businesses or individuals. So EDA works at the governmental level, nonprofit, institutes of higher education, and certainly partnering closely with our tribal organizations as well. What can states do? Really, we understand that tourism, travel, and outdoor recreation has been hit hard more than most industries, for sure. And we want states to think about the most compelling ways to leverage these resources to meet the needs of their unique industries. For example, workforce training. If there is an opportunity to help revitalize travel and tourism, workforce development, training, and talent pipelines as we recover from this pandemic, perhaps there's a compelling workforce investment that we can make in a destination or resort town. Perhaps after this tumultuous year, a region, a state has recognized the importance to think more strategically about building a more resilient travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation economy. So some planning, some coordination across different state entities, different state travel and tourism organizations could be really compelling. Maybe it's about building back better with the right infrastructure. EDA for many years has supported a variety of infrastructure to help communities attract tourists and maybe even in some surprising ways help maintain and support the growth of tourism. For example, critical infrastructure to handle major influxes of populations during seasonal changes. Maybe a community or region is having, or their infrastructure is tested during a summer seasonal influx of tourists. EDA might be able to support the retrofitting and modernization of different infrastructure or transit capacity or capabilities to improve the efficiency or the safety of tourism within the region. One fun thing to see, one good news story, I should say, to see throughout the pandemic was the rise in outdoor recreation in a lot of communities. Whether it's helping states configure, design, build recreation trails or related infrastructure, bridges, piers, access points to maximize utility of those outdoor recreation sites. We've been supporting that type of work for some time and want to help states strengthen the attraction and robustness of their respective outdoor recreation industries as best we can. I think what I'm trying to get at is that we hope that this program can be utilized to meet the most impactful economic development opportunities in states and their respective travel and tourism industries. Now, an important note here too is that when I say projects that aren't just going to help recover today, but leave long-lasting capacity and infrastructure to bring true economic development, change, and growth to the region. So I'd encourage communities when thinking about this portion of the program and the competitive side of the program, which I'll talk about shortly, to think about projects that not only bring tourists back, but will bring them back next season and the following season and for many years to come. Long-lasting capacity is what we're most interested in, and is going to be the most compelling of a project for EDA. The timeline for these awards, invitations have already gone out, and we're asking states to submit applications no later than 60 days after receipt. We intend the majority of our awards will be made by November of this fall. However, for those that are early responders and quick to act, I do anticipate we'll be able to make awards sooner than that. It just depends on how quick states are able to respond and participate in this program. I do want to flag that, like all of our programming across this ARPA portfolio, we do need projects to be spent down and costs finalized and finished within no later than a 5-year performance period, or May 31st, 2027. So that's it for the state tourism grants. I'm going to shift to the competitive portion of this portfolio, or the competitive tourism grants challenge, which is $240 million. This is going to look and feel very similar to the activities that we can support through the state tourism grants, but for a couple different factors. One, this will be competitive. We recognize that states may have different interests or priorities than all localities across their region, and we hope that communities that might not be able to benefit from a state grant can leverage this part of the portfolio on the competitive side. So this may feel a little bit more focused on local solutions and regional solutions that states couldn't quite get to through the non-competitive portion. Also note that destination marketing, which is allowable and welcomed through the non-competitive state tourism grants, is also allowable on this portion as well, but must be focused either regionally, as in multi-state, or national approaches, but purely local and statewide destination marketing should pursue resources through the state non-competitive grants. I briefly talked about eligible applicants earlier. Eligible applicants for the competitive tourism grants are the same list of potential eligible sub-awardees if a state wishes to compete sub-awards through the non-competitive portion of the portfolio. So while the state non-competitive grants will be awarded to states, these entities here could be beneficiaries of the state non-competitive grants, or they could apply directly to the competitive portion of this portfolio. So a district or a designated economic development organization or district, our tribes, state, county, city, or political subdivision, institutes of higher education, whether that's community colleges, HBCUs, or larger universities. We welcome them all. Or public or private nonprofit organizations acting in cooperation with local officials. That's an important note. We look for nonprofit organizations should be aligned and supported by their local governments. We want to make sure that the work that's being done is endorsed by and supports the local government's plans, visions, and directions for the economy. Hope that helps. Timeline for this part of the challenge. Grant applications are open, and we will be receiving those on a rolling basis until funds are obligated. We encourage applicants to submit their proposals by March. This is important so that we have enough time to process everything before our obligation deadline in September of 2022. So across the ARPA portfolio, all programming, all awards must be made by September 31st of 2022. Whether it's travel and tourism, our regular economic adjustment and assistance program, or perhaps the newer, more innovative Build Back Better regional challenge, all program dollars must be obligated by September 31st, 2022. So please don't delay. We hope that you all do get started. The notice of funding opportunity is live and available, ready to download. That is really where folks can learn and understand this work the best. I hope today's webinar serves as a familiarization, learning exercise. You can really get started in the NOFOS itself. Like the others, same period of performance must be completed no later than May 31st of 2027. Competitive tourism grants, not too different, than what is eligible as activities under the state travel and tourism grants. Again, lots of flexibility here. We designed this so that communities could respond to the unique needs of whatever industry they have that is growing and supporting travel and tourism. We really don't want to emphasize one or the other type of activity for a particular region, other than as you look at potential projects, we hope that you look at or consider, I should say, some of the ideas I shared earlier where what's going to help us recover today, what's going to help us attract new commerce, new travelers, and outdoor recreation visitors today, and what can also do that in a sustainable, long-term manner. What's going to bring us capacity and impacts for years to come. This is a real opportunity to invest in this sector for the benefit of today, but also with the mindset of long-term, more resilient recovery. Last note on the bottom here, I will share that while diversification projects are welcome, we do prefer projects in this program to support the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation sectors. What that means is we do recognize that some communities who have been absolutely hardest hit in this sector may desire to consider some diversification projects, strategies, infrastructure work that's going to make them more resilient and bring economic diversity through other sectors or industries. And while we do welcome those proposals, I think it is only in a unique, really distressed circumstances where we would consider those under this programming. I mentioned this earlier around destination marketing on this very bottom banner here. We really want local destination marketing activities to come in through these state tourism non-competitive grants. Flagging that for interest, as I know there's a lot of demand for this type of work at the moment. What's next? Today's webinar, as I mentioned, is a learning familiarization opportunity, but by no means can we cover all the details on the nuances in how to prepare an application or what's required. So we hope that if you saw yourself in this presentation, you might be inspired to check out and get familiar with the Notice of Funding opportunity. If you have some specific questions and project ideas, you think you're ready for a more tailored conversation, we'd suggest that you reach out to your economic development representative. Contact information can be found here. But please, folks, given the demand, especially for this program right now, the more you can become familiar with the Notice of Funding opportunity and prepare specific tailored questions, the more helpful we can be. General questions, feel free to shoot them to our travel and tourism inbox. We will be working through that daily to quickly respond to general inquiries as best we can. Our economic development representatives cover the entire field. We have EDRs, reps in every state and every territory. We hope to be supportive and responsive to this industry and your region's needs as best we can through this NOFO. I know I've probably instigated some questions at this point. So thankfully, I have a team of experts to help me out with these. But I'd like to level set with a few that we've seen ourselves quite frequently. And to help me through those, I'd like to ask Chris Anderson, our Deputy Chief Counsel, Shelby Wenner, our Programs Operations Coordinator, and Michelle Chang, our Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy, to join back, and we'll work through these together. And hopefully this dialogue will help everyone reflect on this program and better understand how to navigate the challenge and what might be available for them at the local level. Michelle, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you. What will be most competitive, a travel and tourism or outdoor recreation project?
Great question. Thanks, Craig. So the answer is either. So we are agnostic to whether you are going to put forward a proposal for travel and tourism or outdoor recreation. We are looking at all sectors equally, and we encourage you to tell us what in your region and your community would be the most impactful. If it's a travel and tourism proposal, send that in. If it's outdoor recreation, send that in as well. They will be looked at equally.
Yeah, I love how that speaks to the strengths of EDA. We work in rural communities, in urban centers, from Alaska to Florida, east and west. We've got some dynamic projects in every state and territory. And reminds me, one great way to get familiar with our work is to check out our press clips. Go to our newsroom on the website. You can see recent announcements. And almost daily, we're making new award announcements. And you can get familiar with the types of projects we're supporting by looking at those press clips. So next up, I think this was a good one for our Deputy Chief Counsel, Chris Anderson. Chris, I hope I got this right earlier. Here's an opportunity for us to clarify and emphasize. I'm a local destination marketing organization. Where should I pursue funding?
Sure. So you did get it right earlier, Craig. If you're a local DMO, where you should pursue funding really depends on what you want to do. If you want to develop or implement a marketing strategy, you should work with your state to access funding through the state invitation grants. If you're looking to do some other sort of project, maybe a job training project, maybe a business technical assistance project, then you can either work with your state or you can apply through the competitive funding. But again, if you're looking to do a marketing project that is local or at geography smaller than the state level, those projects are not eligible for funding under competitive.
Thanks, Chris. We've got a question more so than anything else right now. So just hope folks don't mind us reiterating this, and I hope it's clear by now. Shelby, I may have submitted or my organization is part of a regular EAA proposal, meaning I'm thinking about submitting an EAA project. Can I also apply to this program for a travel and tourism specific project?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So your organization can submit proposals for different projects to multiple American Rescue Plan programs, but we ask you please do not submit the same project application to multiple programs or NOFOs. Please consider the best fit and program for your project and only submit each one once.
Yeah. We don't want to duplicate. We want to be smart and intentional with these resources, and we want to be smart and intentional with your time. We recognize that it is a process to participate in federal programming, so we would respectfully ask folks to focus their proposals where they see the fit the best. All right, a few more, we'll open up to some general ones. For the competitive tourism grants, how much should my organization bring to this project? This is a technical question, so I'm going to lean on our Deputy Chief Counsel, Chris, for this one. Chris, how much match my organization bring to this project if I'm under the competitive tourism grants?
Right. So generally speaking, EDA expects to fund 80% of project costs under the competitive awards. Excuse me. That means that your organization will, in general, need to bring a 20% non-federal match. And you can satisfy that match either through cash or through in-kind contributions to the project. EDA does have the discretion to go above 80% and up to 100% based on unusual need for certain applicants. And so some of the things that EDA will look at when evaluating whether to go above 80% are whether the applicant has exhausted its effective taxing and borrowing capacity, the extent of the economic impacts of the pandemic on the travel and tourism and outdoor recreation industries in the project region, and other indicia of economic distress, such as high unemployment or low per capita income. One thing to note, however, is that applicants that provide more match may be considered more competitive under this opportunity. And last, I just add that, as is true with all of EDA's programs, applications by Indian tribes are eligible for funding at up to 100%.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to keep you on the hot seat for one more quick one. 501c6s. We've seen a lot of that, a lot of those types come through either as DMOs, chambers. Are 501c6s eligible to apply?
That's an interesting question, Craig. And the answer is usually. 501c6s can be a lot of different kinds of organizations, but most of them are eligible for EDA funding. And I would say in particular, destination marketing organizations are virtually always eligible for EDA funding if they're organized as 501c6 organizations. As with all nonprofit organizations, 501c6s need to show that they're acting in cooperation with a general purpose political subdivision of a state, such as a city, town, or county. And you can do that by providing a letter of support from that political subdivision that demonstrates that the division is aware of and supports the project.
Thanks, Chris. Hope that helps, folks. And this is another one. If you'd want to get more clarity, you want to have a conversation about it, and you think you're a fit for this program, probably a good conversation to have with your economic development representative. Michelle, my organization received a CARES grant. Can I apply for ARPA as well?
Great question. Thanks, Craig. Yes, if you received a CARES grant, you can apply for an ARPA grant as well. So certainly feel free to look through not just this travel and tourism, outdoor recreation NOFO, but the 5 others that we have if you receive the CARES grant, does not preclude you from applying to these as well.
Yeah, and as is the case with all of EDA's programming, we're always looking to be thoughtful and intentional with our resources. So I'm thinking about the question that Shelby clarified for us around pursuit of multiple ARPA programs. I think the same goes for this one as well. If you are active under a project that we funded through CARES, I think we'd want to be very thoughtful and considerate of how we would be building on that grant or doing something different versus duplicative and over-investing in one particular area or type of economic development. So being thoughtful and intentional, we recognize there's a tremendous amount of demand for this $750 million portfolio. And we really want to do our best to maximize the investment opportunity here. One more similar question for you, Michelle, is this last one here. Thinking about strategic implications and diversification. Can we apply for a diversification through this notice of funding opportunity, a diversification project, I should say, through this notice of funding opportunity?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So when thinking about diversification, so if you have a project that would look to diversify your community away from travel and tourism and outdoor recreation, you can apply for a program like that through the competitive grant in the Travel and Tourism Outdoor Recreation Program. We do encourage projects and proposals that do focus on the Travel and Tourism Outdoor Recreation Program, but we will accept proposals that are around diversity.
All right. I hope that helps everyone. That's our formal questions prepared. I'm looking at a couple that's coming through right now that were frequent flyers in the chat. Here's a good one for you, Chris, on SEDS alignment. Does this program require alignment with local SEDS? That's our comprehensive economic development strategies.
Yes, so for the competitive awards, the application needs to demonstrate alignment either with an EDA-approved SEDS or an EDA-accepted SEDS equivalent. You can reach out to your local economic development district for some help with identifying your local SEDS. There's information on our website to help you identify that district. If your region does not have a SEDS, you can reach out to your EDR to get some assistance with helping to identify alternate strategies.
Another one, what is the anticipated competitive tourism grant size? So how big are grants going to be made under the competitive one? And I welcome all my colleagues here to add any context to help me out. This is not the simplest one to answer, partly because it's really hard to gauge what an average size might be without better understanding what the demand and what types of projects are available out there. EDA wants to be responsive to the needs of our communities, and our EDRs, our economic development representatives, are really great at working with communities to navigate the process and help them understand what's available, and what's practical, and maybe what's most importantly going to be viable under different notices of funding opportunities. So we do have different needs in every state and different demands in all of our regions. So some may have more urgent and distressed needs in travel and tourism versus others, and where that might make more sense to make more awards or larger awards. But generally speaking, for this one, I think it's fair to say communities might expect the same level of funding that we made under the CARES Act for this NOFO under travel and tourism. So I think that is one important clarification. where some of our other programs, like our Build Back Better, Regional Challenge, we do anticipate we do anticipate much larger grants, but I don't anticipate we'll be going quite that size through this program, pending, of course, real demand and projects proposed. Chris or Michelle, anything you might add to that?
I thought that was a good answer, Craig. I just provide, for some of our listeners who might not be as familiar with EDA's past practice, the general guideline we provided in the notice of funding opportunity was that awards would, generally speaking, be between $500,000 and $10 million. And I think that that's probably a good general range to have in mind, although it is just a indicative range. Those aren't hard limits. And I would say probably, we're looking at more towards the bottom half of that range. So probably I would say the majority of awards are going to be in that $500,000 to $5 million range. But having said that, everything that Craig just said about looking at context, need, and economic development opportunity is crucially important in determining the size of any particular award.
Great. Thanks, Chris. I think I've got one more for the benefit of the group. Certainly a lot of very specific technical questions have come in, and we want to be responsive to the needs of everyone and be as valuable to all stakeholders. So try to keep these tailored to a more general level today. Do projects have to create jobs? Chris, this is an interesting one, especially given the conditions of the economy and some of the demands right now. I'd be curious to hear your perspective on whether or not EDA would consider projects that may not be immediately or directly creating jobs.
So I think the answer is no, a project doesn't have to create or retain jobs, but I think applicants should think about the competitiveness of their proposal and really make a strong case for the economic development of a proposal that isn't closely tied to near-term job creation or retention. So that's a long-winded way of saying, no, you don't have to, but applications that do have estimates of job creation or retention are likely going to be.
Yeah, and I think a great example where that might be applicable is in some of our most distressed communities that might need more fundamental or basic capacity before being able to do more long-term job creation type of activities. That's certainly the case in some of our coal communities, tribes, Indian tribes, and some of our rural communities who need just basic fundamental infrastructure. Just want to emphasize what you said, Chris. Yep. I think really focus on how a project is going to add economic development capacity if it's not directly driving job creation or retention. All right. Shelby, Chris, or Michelle, those are the big ones that I saw. Are there any other thematic questions that we might want to highlight today?
Not for me.
Great. All right, folks. Well, next steps, I'd like to just close with a reminder. Please use the notice of funding opportunity as your North Star throughout this process. First and foremost, number two is our website where we'll be regularly updating materials like our frequently asked questions. And this presentation will be posted very soon. And get familiar with the program. It's lots of information out there. We hope that informs you and your community, and then you'll be able to prepare some meaningful questions whenever ready for our economic development representatives or EDRs or our staff supporting the travel and tourism inbox. Thanks for your time today. Next up, tomorrow, we'll be doing another round of EDA 101. On Thursday, we've got a cold community webinar coming up. Then Friday, our research and networks webinar to round out the week. Again, lots of activity here, lots of information coming out. Stay tuned, stay in touch. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.